I'm Maya Axton. I'm transgender, a voluntarist, a small business owner, and a veteran. It only gets weirder from there. This is The Uncontrollables.
All right, this week on The Uncontrollables, we've got, well, me, Maya, obviously, because it's my show, mine. And then that was Josh Featherstone, who is the vice chair of the Libertarian Party of Marion County and a manager at a place that serves really horrible food.
No, that is not correct.
Okay, well, they sell, decent food, but, yeah, well, we don't want to get you fired, because that would probably happen.
That would be bad. I enjoy employment.
I enjoy unemployment. It's wonderful. So, yeah, I am unemployed. Isn't that fun? I have so much time on my hands I can make a podcast. And you guys are going to listen to it and love it and enjoy it and pet it and cuddle it and hug it. But George. Tonight, call it George. Want to see my snap turtle? All right. We're going to talk about a myriad of subjects tonight. A lot of them kind of revolving around gun control and other cockamamie schemes by the government to make us feel like they're our nanny and we're a 3-year-old child that doesn't know how to deal with things on our own.
We are not trustworthy.
No, not at all. But they are 100% trustworthy. But we're not trustworthy. But if you're paid by the government, you are the pinnacle of good people.
Right. They should be allowed to have anything that they want while keeping us from having anything that they have.
Right. I mean, like we've been poring over the Feinstein gun ban bill, her assault weapons ban for 2013, which honestly, with the way things are going around the country, it might pass. There's always that possibility. So it's pretty cool. There's a couple other bills floating around, and all these different states, Washington, Colorado, I think Missouri, have these.
It's everywhere right now. It's an infection.
Yeah, it's everywhere. Everybody wants to, they want to ban these so-called assault weapons. I mean, I don't know exactly how you define something as an assault weapon. They've tried to really, really well with a lot of words that are very vague.
Right. Basically, according to this Feinstein bill, it looks like if it's capable of...
it has the capacity to accept a detachable magazine and any one of the following. Now, the reason why it's any one of the following and why that's special is because the old assault weapons ban back in the 90s had to have 2 of the following. But it's a pistol grip, a forward grip, a folding, telescoping, or detachable stock. Now, the detachable stock bit, that's interesting because almost half the guns I've ever owned, you take out one screw and the stock comes off. So I don't know how they play on that. A grenade launcher or a rocket launcher.
How many grenade launchers do you have?
I currently own none. I carried an M203, M16 in the military when I was in the Air Force.
I don't have any grenade launchers.
I want one. I think they're the most fun thing ever, and I'm going to get one day, whether they want to ban them or not, so they can kiss my... you got a barrel shroud or a threaded barrel. If you had a threaded barrel, you can put like a suppressor or a silencer or, oh my God, a flash suppressor. Oh my God, or a compensator. Could you imagine how dangerous a compensator makes a gun?
I think that according to this bill, really, if it is capable of shooting a bullet, then it should be disallowed.
Right. What it says here is it says all the following rifles, copies, duplicates, variants, or altered facsimiles with the capability of any such weapon thereof. And that's talking about what they want to ban. It's after they go through, all the detachable magazine plus one. It says that. And what's really scary is any of the rifles, copies, or duplicates, variants. What does that mean? Altered facsimiles with the capability of any such weapon? Honestly, with the weapons they have listed here, I mean, you're looking at anything that has the 2 letters AK in it, literally.
Or AR. Both are equally dangerous.
All the Segas. The Norinco 56S and the other variations of it, all AR types, including the following: the AR-10, 15, the Beretta AR-70. You just go down through here. I mean, the Bushmaster XM15, anything that basically even kind of looks, smells, or wants to be like an AR is banned in all of its variations, I guess. I mean, you've got basically everything you could think of that you want because they're awesome and would actually do a really good job of their intended purpose of stopping the government from doing what they're doing right now is going to be banned. It's just utterly amazing is that they went through here and they just picked apart a billion guns. Now, print this off, and it's about 73 pages long. Well, about, I want to say probably about 60 of the pages is nothing but a giant list of accepted guns that this ban doesn't apply to. Kinda. It's all the bolt-action, double-barrel, single-shot shotguns. It does not include shotguns that have a revolving cylinder.
It does, doesn't it? I thought it said...
No, it does ban shotguns with revolving cylinders.
Shotgun with a revolving cylinder.
Now, that means all you fans of the Taurus Judge, I'm pretty sure that's considered a shotgun to some degree, or it's a pistol. But yeah, it's a shotgun with a pistol grip and a short barrel. So
right, I would say that if this law got passed, the Taurus Judge is one that it's a shotgun that has a revolving cylinder. It's out. You can't have that anymore. And that's one that everyone always loves to pick up and look at the gun shows too, and be like, look at that son of a gun.
Right. And they have this giant list of guns, of all the different variations of guns. They're just all bolt action, basically either like serious competition sport or hunting weapons, or old antiques that nobody actually wants because they're old and you're afraid to fire them because you'll devalue them and blah, blah, blah. So it's really interesting to go through this bill and see all this crap. I mean, today's Saturday. This will be airing on a Tuesday. So this is Saturday. There was a pro-Second Amendment rally going on downtown Indy. And I went to one, about a month ago?
Yeah. Coincided with the 1500, as I recall.
Yes. No. That was even before that. There's been, I think 6 in the past couple months. I personally only went to one of them because, those people are insane.
At the risk of advertising for somebody that's not paying for advertising, Indy 1500 this coming weekend.
Yes.
Yeah,
so
the fairgrounds.
Definitely try to go out there. It'll probably be another record number year.
Show up early. My gosh, the lines at that last 1500, a couple hours to get in sometimes.
Yeah, and it's kind of depressing. They're going to try to ban all these guns and everything else, and these Second Amendment people go out there and they get riled up. They're not going to take our guns and all this other crap.
You just sounded like Julie Borowski, and I know that you hate that.
Oh, God. No, I didn't. I'm going to go ahead and have to harm myself. Where's a knife at? I cannot sound like that woman.
For those of you that don't know, Julie Borowski, token libertarian girl, has a show on YouTube she puts out there.
It's not a show, it's a stunt.
It's a stunt, whatever. I don't hate Julie. I don't necessarily agree with her all the time, but Maya is not the biggest fan.
She's a statist trickster.
She is one of the Republitarians that just
small L libertarian only.
Yes.
No toleration for big L libertarians in their little club. That includes Austin Peterson. You also, and then her working for Freedom Works. They say they're taking it over with libertarians, and it's a crock. But these Second Amendment people talking about that, they're all up in arms over this Feinstein bill, and it's just, I'm talking about it because it's an interesting read. I mean, it's always fun to read bills.
The people that wrote them and voted on them would read them a little bit, because I would be willing to bet that by the time this goes to vote, there is less than 10%?
If
maybe even that much that
are
going to have a clue what this actually even says.
Well, they passed an assault weapons ban once before. We've had so many different bills passed dealing with guns and what we can own, and it's kind of like you talk about the Second Amendment when you want to talk about the Constitution shall not be infringed. The second they passed the first law saying that I can't carry a machine gun, should have been the last straw. We should all picked up our machine guns and went and marched on D.C.
And you know what I love? You got these people that get out there and they are going to try to provide a counterpoint to what you just said, and they're like, well, wait a second, you forgot the words well-regulated. I'm sorry, but this is already one of the most well-regulated industries that's out there. Tightening these or leaving these laws the way they are now, or even loosening them up a little bit, doesn't mean that the gun industry is not well regulated.
Oh, good Lord, they're regulated.
Oh, my gosh.
The amount of rules out there. I mean, you see all these guns out there, but that's a different story.
Have you seen the picture of when those cops were in my yard? Do you remember that?
No.
A year ago or so, last summer. And this, at the time, I didn't understand. I was sitting in my living room and just sitting there watching TV, and I've got a pretty large window that overlooks my backyard. And I'm sitting there watching TV, and something catches my eye. So I look out the back window, and I see an IMPD officer in my backyard with his gun drawn, and he's kind of leaning up against my garage, looking, kind of poking his head out around the corner and looking like down towards my neighbor's house. Well, obviously this grabbed my attention. So I get up and I go look out the window, and around the corner from where he's standing, there was another officer. I have my I have a GMC pickup truck. It was backed up to my garage. And there was another officer also with his weapon drawn, leaning up against my truck, kind of looking out over the hood, also in the same direction down towards my neighbor's house. Now, despite the fact they're looking down towards my neighbor's house, of course, my first thought in my head is, oh my God, what have I done now? After I realize that they're probably not here for me, I stand there, I'm looking, oh my God, there's cops with their guns out in my backyard. What is going on? And of course, I start texting people and calling people. Finally, I walk away for just a second, and I turn around, I go to the other side of the house, and I look out the front window. I'm not even thinking about the fact that there may be more than just these two officers there, and there's a swarm of police cars in the drive. Not in the drive, but in the street right in front of my house. And I have a really big tree right in the middle of my front yard, and there are 2 or 3 officers tucked in behind the tree, also all with their weapons drawn, also looking down towards my neighbor's house. At some point in time, one of the officers, kind of takes this duck and runs back to this police car, opens the trunk, and gets out Big Daddy, quote unquote assault rifle, and comes back, gets back in behind the tree again, using the tree as like shelter, pokes his head around the tree, lifts the gun up to his shoulder, is like he's aiming it down towards my neighbor's house. Like, what in the hell is going on down there? At this point in time, I start taking pictures. So check out, if you get the time, I should get these up somewhere where someone can check them out. Follow me on Twitter, J.A. Featherstone. I'll see if I can get some of those pictures up pretty soon. He leans out around the tree, and he's pointing the gun like he's aiming at somebody or something down towards my neighbor's house. Suddenly, at some point in time, I think there was 8 police cars out in front of my house at this point in time. At some point in time, they stop, and whatever they were there for apparently wasn't a threat anymore, and they just all of a sudden kind of go into leisurely mode, and they all go back to their cars. I'm, of course, interested what's going on. I get a knock on my door. One of the officers comes to my back door and asks if I know who lives next to me. So now I'm worried about my neighbor, but the name didn't seem to ring any bells with the officer. But anyway, they end up all leaving. I do some investigating. It took me a couple days to find out what happened. There's apparently a lady from another side of town, and I don't know what she was doing in my neighborhood, but she was apparently in the yard at my neighbor's house and had threatened to commit suicide. This is the response of your local police department when there's a suicide threat. She was
going to attempt to commit suicide, so they show up with a bunch of guns?
They showed up with a bunch of guns, drew them, surrounded her. Now, I understand somebody trying to commit suicide may possibly be a threat to others. I can understand that that's a possibility. But I think that if she was a threat to others, how are you diminishing that threat by surrounding her and pulling your weapons and aiming them at her if she wants to go anyway? How are you talking her down?
Yeah, that's inane. That really is. And I've heard of responses like that before. And yeah, definitely give me those pictures. I'll post them on Indianapolis Cop Block.
This was last summer. It was really crazy. But
that helped.
And I was honestly halfway fearful because it's kind of like the Cop Block thing we talked about on the last episode. I'm kind of taking these pictures, but at the time, like I said, I didn't have any idea what's going on, so I don't know if there's going to be gunfire for whatever reason, because I have no idea why they have high-powered rifles and their firearms and are everywhere with their guns drawn in my yard. I have no idea why they're there, so I'm not really keen on getting right up next to the windows and stuff, because I don't know what's getting ready to happen. But still, I whip out, of course, the cell phone. I start taking some cell phone camera shots. But my thought is, while I'm taking these shots, really isn't, am I safe right up here next to the window if there happens to be some gunfire? My thoughts are these officers going to look over at me and see me taking pictures of them with all their guns drawn in my yard and try to stop me, try to confiscate my camera, try to make sure that I don't let anybody see this at all? It was unique. I ended up getting a couple pictures. I wish I'd taken some more. I got a couple pictures at the front of my house, one of mostly the number of police cars that were out front, and one of the officer with the rifle kind of poking around the tree. But it was an interesting thing. That's one of those things that not everyone gets to experience in their life.
So they trespassed onto your property to point guns at an old lady that was wanting to commit suicide.
Was.
Okay,
but a lady.
That was wanting to commit suicide. hypothetically, and they decided to infringe on your property rights, armed to the teeth, weapons drawn in aggressive stance.
Oh, I had absolutely no idea why they were there, other than the fact that they all were on my property and not too far from my house. As far as officers I saw with weapons drawn, I wouldn't say there was a single one of them that was more than 15 or 20 feet from the actual structure of my home.
Wow, that's scary. I mean, it
didn't flow too well with
imagine
me.
if that was at night.
And they wouldn't answer any questions as they finally start gathering up their stuff and are heading out. I'm like, is there anything I need to be worried about? What's going on here?
No, they're not there to protect you.
No. Oh, everything's fine. Well, why were you just in large numbers on my property with guns drawn pointing at people?
Right, that's pretty disturbing. Imagine if they would have done it at night. Imagine if you would have even lived in a somewhat bad neighborhood where you feared that people were going to try to break in. It was a gang or something.
Yeah.
And you would have been, oh goodness, you could not have tried to defend yourself against this hypothetical threat.
If I wouldn't have been able to tell that they were officers, if this would have happened at night, and let's say
when they're all in their SWAT gear and stuff and masks on, how are you supposed to tell the difference?
A couple of them were just, they were just in uniform, but it's all black uniform. If I would have just seen a person outside by my garage, you can bet that I would have picked up a firearm and walked outside to see what in the hell's going on.
Oh, and at that point, they would have put, 300-400 rounds
we
into
wouldn't be sitting
your
here
house.
talking right now.
So maybe we need to talk about the high-capacity mag ban against cops.
Right.
But it's interesting you talk about cops and how insane most of them are and how militarized they are and how violent they really become is with this firearms bill. And by the way, it's S-150, Assault Weapons Ban of 2013. Oh, look at the gut on that guy. He's showing me a picture right now this day, and I'll put on the Facebook page, the Facebook page for the Uncontrollables. And this guy's got a nice little gut, and they're all just, they're in your yard. So
they're actually in my yard. And you can see how close that tree is to the front of my house.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
By the way, I Fox 59, I forwarded this picture to them because they had reported on their website that there was something going on in my neighborhood, but they didn't really know what. So I forwarded this picture to them real quick, and they very, very quickly posted it up on their page without any credit to myself, and they edited out the Dos Equis cup. They couldn't let any beer be in the picture.
Of course, you drunken redneck. Okay, but back to the cop thing and how, just insane some of these people are. A lot of them are actually just, you look at statistics here, but they're talking about who this does not really apply to, who this bill doesn't apply to. And it basically, if you're paid by the federal government in any way, shape, and or form, or a state government, or because of any law you're being paid or apply, or, you're under a functionary part of the government, you get to keep your guns. You can have whatever guns you want because if you get paid by the government, you are an outstanding individual, so you can have whatever gun you want because you're not dangerous. Cops never wrongfully shoot people. Lie. The interesting part is that if you retire and you're in good standing with whatever agency you happen to work with, you can take your gun with you when you retire. So you can now be a civilian, but retired, get let go, or if you get deputized or some random stuff and you decide to leave, you get to take your gun with you. And then if it can be gifted or any way you can think of acquiring a gun from an agency. Well, most of these cops, you can buy guns from them and everything else because they get them free from the government, and then you can take them home. Well, they're starting to get military equipment and military grade weapons, semi-auto, full auto. These people are going to be allowed to take these guns home?
Right. And see, the argument about letting them have it to begin with is, they need to be able to protect themselves as law enforcement officers, with weapons of a certain variety because of the weapons that may potentially be used against them, which whether or not that argument's valid, that's a completely different discussion. But when you start saying that these officers are allowed to legally have them when they're not on duty as an officer, or maybe not even employed as an officer of the law anymore, but just because they once were, they now have a right that the rest of the citizens can't have. Right.
And that's kind of a scary thought.
It happens. Chicago's big on this because police officers up there, once they, even if they don't, if they retire from the force, they can always carry, even though no one can get a permit in Illinois anywhere. But if you happen to have once been an officer of the law in Illinois, you can carry anywhere for the rest of your days.
Right. And that bill says on or off duty for all the different subsets of what agencies and everything else they list. So, if you have a gun at all ever, in your employ for the government, you can carry that thing on and off duty. I mean, technically, with the way this bill reads, I'm sure there's already stipulations, regulations that maybe that's not 100% true, but the way it reads is that basically it could come to the fact that the DHS people buying up all those guns and equipment and everything can do whatever they want. Mm-hmm. It's kind of scary. It's still in committee, so it hadn't hit the floor or anything. There's no votes or any of that. But
this will get out of committee.
It will. It's in the Senate Judiciary Committee. And just this past Thursday, which would be March 8th, 7th, she opposed an amendment to her assault weapons ban that would allow military veterans to continue to buy firearms that would be banned. Now, wait. Think of that.
So she's protective of law enforcement officers, but not protecting of the military.
Well, okay, all government agencies that deal with security, not just cops.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Not just law enforcement
DHS,
officers.
FBI, CIA, all these little guys running around with their big guns and pretty suits.
The
and
IRS
paychecks.
now. I mean, they're buying
DHS,
how many rounds of hollow point ammunition?
You
better pay your taxes.
Yeah, I'm so glad they can buy up guns and bullets and we can't. She opposed this thing that would allow military veterans to continue to buy firearms that would be banned. Veteran. I'm technically a veteran, so that's kind of cool for me. Haha, you guys suck.
Right?
But
what are you complaining about? I'm the one that's screwed here.
No, it's disgusting.
Oh, well,
that you think that military veterans, just because they're a veteran, that they're somehow better people than all the rest of the country?
Well, yeah,
what
but
about
this
those
law
people
is specifically disallowing them, though, isn't it?
No. This bill doesn't specifically state one way or the other. Now,
I thought the amendment does, though.
The amendment would specifically allow, it was an amendment that would allow military veterans to continue to buy firearms that would be banned after the bill's passage. I think right now, because it doesn't specifically state the military, but the way it's worded, it would include the DOD, which means it would include the DOE and everything else, but it would also, under the Department of Defense, it would include the military. I would assume, but I can't say for sure. Because, no, it wouldn't. It would not cover military veterans because it's for retirement or another stipulation. So it would
just
have
being
to be
a veteran is not
that
good enough.
That wouldn't be
own.
good enough. I should have made that. I should have found that point earlier. Now, she opposed it, and she says a veteran may be mentally ill and should be prevented from purchasing firearms. Here's a quote from her: "If I understand this adds an exemption of retired military."
Who's this quote from? Diane
Feinstein.
Diane.
Now,
I'm on a first name basis with her.
Yeah, Dick from California. What's weird is that this says military veterans. I could not find any info or any language on the amendment. Those things don't always pop up real quick. That was only a couple days ago. But she says, if I understand this adds an exemption of retired military. So they're already finding some kind of conflict in here of what the bill actually says to what this article says. And as I understand our bill, no issue has arose in this regard during the 10 years the expired ban was in effect. What we did in the other bill was exempt possession by the United States or a department or agency of the United States. So that included active military. That's all fine. And she says the problem with expanding this is that, with the advent of PTSD, which I think is a new phenomenon as a product of the Iraq War. Now, hold on real quick.
Are you serious? She thinks PTSD
is only specific to the Iraq War.
Before the Iraq War, there was no one who ever came home troubled and disturbed.
What's that phrase? Shell-shocked. What's that?
Never. Nope.
No. That wasn't real either.
Got over that.
Those were pansies. Treasonous pansies.
Yes. But all those people that came home from Vietnam that you couldn't sleep. Sleep at night.
Pansies. Treasonous traitor pansies. Now, fourth hand.
You have to be with the military to believe that the first time that there was ever anything along the lines of PTSD was Iraq. Like, that's what caused it all. Well, it was a Bush, though, that took us into Iraq originally, and it was a Bush that got us back there. So it's, party lines,
Yeah, we got to play those party lines.
Right,
but,
Democrats.
But she goes on to say, because that.
No trouble when you come home. I think we're any means trying to trying to suggest that war isn't awful, and there isn't horrible
There's
things that happen.
nothing at all good about war. So she goes on to say, which I think is a new phenomenon, right? It's not clear how the seller or transferee of a firearm covered by this bill would verify that an individual is a member or a veteran, and that there was no impairment of that individual with respect to having a weapon like this.
So wait a second. She doesn't think there's any way to identify who's a veteran and who isn't?
Well, it's interesting she says that, and she used that as her point, because this gun bill, she's saying this under the gun bill, this gun bill requires background checks for everything. Not that there aren't already background checks,
right?
But this would pretty much require background checks for everything.
I purchased a firearm one time, and believe it or not, I had to fill out a questionnaire before I bought that firearm. And when I got done filling out that questionnaire, they called the FBI.
Yeah, well,
and told the FBI what my answers were to find out if I could buy a gun or not.
So I was in the U.S. Air Force with a secret security clearance. I carried fully auto weapons, semi-auto weapons, and grenade launchers every single day at work with body armor and everything, tracer rounds, and I guarded nuclear ordnance. And I went to the gun store, local in town, and I was denied to buy a simple AK-47 because all my friends had them in the military, and I thought it was cool. I'd never bought a gun before. I went and tried to buy it, serving my country with all these clearances and special permissions, and I was denied because someone at some point in time had used my name in the commission of a felony and just never told me about it. They verified it wasn't me. They knew it wasn't me, but because my name was now listed as an alias somewhere for some jag-off, I couldn't buy a gun. So from that point on, I've never tried to buy a gun from a store, and I never will.
Right.
And, good luck knowing how many I have. So I'm just going to leave that at that. I'm sure the government's going to listen to this because my name is mentioned at the Fusion Center locally downtown, and I know they know who I am. Good job, FBI. Come get some. So, but she goes on to say... So, I would be happy to sit down with you again and see if we could work something out, but I think we have to, if you're going to do this, find a way that veterans who are incapacitated for one reason or another mentally don't have access to this kind of weapon. Are you going to do that for law enforcement too? Are you going to do that for all these other government agencies?
Well, there's no way a law enforcement officer could have ever had a traumatic experience in their life.
Oh, no, because they're outstanding superheroes. Da-da-da. Come on.
You didn't get a badge. That's the problem. You got a uniform.
No, I did get a badge.
You got a badge, too?
I was security forces. I was the police of the world.
Isn't that the superhero symbol?
No, I had a badge, and we were the biggest dickheads on the face of the planet. I mean, we did gate guard duty, and it's just like, I control this base. You're a 4-star general, and I'm still going to act like a jag-off to you.
Right? You know why? Because that's my job.
Yeah. So, I mean, and it's really
like
interesting.
I have any clue what your job was.
I guarded nukes. I was guarded nukes in the world's largest and most secure supply of nuclear ordnance on the face of the planet, 40 feet underground. The ACLU did come out and they said, I just grabbed a quote from them real quick because they've been bringing some stuff up lately, and it says, we do know that in 2011, $500 million worth of surplus military equipment went to police departments. $500 million. Now, I'm not sure how they factor that amount before or after. If it's surplus, it's dirt cheap, which means that's a lot. If it's before, that's not a whole lot.
Because this one more time. $500 million.
Yeah, that's a lot of zeros.
That's a lot of zeros.
I mean, it's $1 billion. It's half of $1 billion. It's $500 million.
I wonder what the cost. Let's say it costs $700 to arm your standard everyday police officer with a traditional firearm.
If you're talking like old school, what cops should actually have, like a duty belt with a gun, cuffs,
there we go.
Stuff.
I'm talking about a cop, and he's got a gun.
Just a gun. You're probably looking at because of special pricing. Yeah, you're probably looking at the belt and everything.
So maybe less.
So just the armaments on a cop, you can include his nightstick or whatever other big tool they want to use to beat people with. Is you've got what, probably $700 to $900 wrapped up. So let's go with 1,000 just to be on the safe side.
Make the math easy.
So if we do the math, that if you broke it down to $1,000 per cop, and you're talking about $500 million, you're looking at what, 500,000 cops have been
500,000
armed. Which is
what's
their
the size of the police force here in the Indianapolis area? Do you know?
Honestly, I don't know. That is an utter and complete failure for someone that's working with cop lock to not know that. I do know the answer. Too many. Way too many. Wow, we sound really anti-cop on this show.
Right, and I don't think that that's the case. I think that the idea of the police is not necessarily so horrible. You and I may be on different sides of this issue a little bit. The theory, the idea,
from a small government standpoint, from a libertarian standpoint, yes, police are a great necessity to protect and serve the people, not to protect and serve and make money and enforce the law.
Right. Yeah. The difference between the good cops that are out there, and there are several.
Oath keepers only.
Yeah.
The only good cops out there belong to either LEAP or oath keepers.
And those officers, the difference between them, to protect and serve, the majority of officers that are maybe, they have a few liberties, and really some of them enjoy bashing a couple heads in.
Oh, what good cop doesn't like to beat the crap out of some, what about an 11-year-old retard in a movie theater? What about a drunk guy strapped to a chair in a hospital? Just beat him real good.
I know an officer, it's not an Indianapolis officer, it's not even a Central Indiana officer. I know an officer from somewhere else. I know them personally throughout my life. I don't have a whole lot of contact with them anymore, but told me a story once. Went on some kind of excursion to another country where the officers had a little bit more of a military rule of things, and proceeded to.
Was it the LAPD?
It wasn't even here in the great United States of America. It was on another continent. But told me a story about how he went and he was representing his local police department, and he was out there learning about. It was some kind of foreign exchange student. Basic, I guess, was what this program was. I'm not sure exactly how it all worked or whatever, but he was in another country, and he was basically doing a ride along with their police for lack of a better term. And he talked about how, this more military police, boy, they just went in a room, and sometimes they would just walk in a room and just grab people and just beat the snot out of them, and for no reason. Just
you sure you're not talking about the LAPD?
It sounds a lot like the LAPD, but no, at least unless he was lying to me. But to hear him tell this story, it was envy. It was envy. That's what he wanted to be able to do here, was just walk into a room and grab people and beat them because he was an officer of the law. He was like foaming at the mouth telling this story about how awesome it was to just have a badge and hurt people because of it for no reason. They just walk into a place and just beat some people up. That was literally what they did.
Well, and the most true phrase ever is power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's you cannot give people a power, and especially the more power we give these cops, the worse they're going to become, and that's just human nature. I'm sorry. You join the force with good intentions. After a while, you're not going to be that good. I'm sorry. It's just that's kind of the and look at our government. Good Lord.
Oh, my gosh. And, something else.
And we can kind of loop this back a little bit because we've been beating the crap out of this topic again, is you've got these sheriff departments out there now getting all uppity with the we're going to stand against the federal government against, the gun bans, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, really? You're not going to stand up against a drug war? You're not going to stand up against, forced racial profiling? You didn't stand up for anybody, for people like me, veterans and third-party supporters, that when the government came out and said, I'm a homegrown terrorist, I hit like almost every mark on that list. I'm a homegrown terrorist. America. And they didn't stand up for me then, but they're going to stand up when people want to take their guns. They're going to stand up against victimless crimes. Really?
It's kind of a catch-22 from our point of view, because we want to kind of give them a pat on the back and support them for saying, hey, I'm not going to let the federal government come in and do this. But yeah, then you turn around and go, where have you been on all these other issues?
They'll stand up against the federal government for the Second Amendment, but you know what? They'll still arrest you and put you in jail for saving a Bambi.
Yeah.
If you guys don't know this story, someone they recuperated a deer after a year, and it was all beat up baby deer, and they saved it. Yeah, they got fined for saving a deer.
DNR came in.
Yeah, DNR. Gotta love them. Love that DNR. I don't know what we do without DNR. I think nature would collapse in on itself without the DNR.
Yes.
But they hit that. So, but you've got these cops, and they're going to stand up against the government for guns. But you know what? They're still going to bust you for having that joint. They're still going to pull DUI checkpoints and illegally, unconstitutionally search your car with zero suspicion.
Just heard stories of one of those recently up in Hamilton County. Sobriety checkpoint that they were pulling over just about everybody.
They had them downtown. And hey, here's another little shout out I can do for you guys. I helped moderate the Indianapolis Cop Block page. Somebody shared with me last night one of the sobriety checkpoints. And when you guys see these things, if you guys see speed traps, if you see sobriety checkpoints, if you hear about things like this, if you got a cop friend or neighbor or something, they love to talk about this stuff, just listen to them. Let them talk a little bit. Buy them a beer or two, and you can let us know. Send us a message, and you can give me a call and let me know, and I'll post it, and I'll let everybody else know where these these checkpoints are, where these speed traps are, where these just atrocious things are. And you think, they're not that atrocious. Drunk driving's one thing. Illegal searches and suspicionless searches are wrong. Sorry, that's just kind of a fact. I don't care what the federal freaking court said. Common sense will reign supreme. But so we go back to the cops getting all this money with the gun control bill, and they're going to fight for this stuff, and they're not going to stop beating us down and doing warrantless searches and using CIs that are so completely unreliable and not doing any fact checking before they run into a home and throw some flashbangs in there and shoot some poor girl just laying on the couch.
That kind of ties in well to the other thing we want to talk about. This gets to this starts going to a point where it's not even guns that they're out to get. It's the idea of guns.
Pop-Tarts.
Yes.
There was a little boy that I'm not going to get into the facts. If you've heard about it, you heard about it. He threw an imaginary grenade on the playground. Oh, he got suspended. Then there was a kid that was trying to chew up his Pop-Tart to look like a mountain. Well, he wasn't treating it like a gun or anything else, but it kind of wasn't in an L shape, which everyone knows an L shape instantly means gun. It does. I don't know if you guys knew that. It is. It's a verifiable fact with the federal government that if an L shape is a gun.
Right. Yes. I think that's actually the legal definition of a gun starts off with L shape.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my God. I really do. And
Dianne Feinstein's law,
funny.
73 pages.
That
and
sounds.
It should just be one word, L shape.
That sounds
L-shape.
absurd, but not really when we're talking with the federal government, because you guys realize that when the government makes a bill like this, they put in definitions for words. So you know how everyone cringes when they say a high capacity clip, and you cringe because you're like, oh my God, you're an idiot. Well, they can change the definition to mean clip can mean anything.
Right, a clip is a magazine now.
They could technically say high capacity condoms, and that would mean, okay, I
tell you what, I buy the high capacity condoms just normally anyway.
I would buy them like right now because of this gorgeous scene that just walked in the room. You guys will see these pictures, and I'll end up having more. There's a beautiful Emily Bang.
I don't know.
Her last name's actually Bang.
I don't know how
Facebook.
I got lucky enough to be here for what's happening right now.
Oh, look at those boots and that little tight skirt. I think she's wearing a corset on that top. Okay, listen to this, guys. You'll see the pictures online. You can find her on Facebook and all of her attractiveness. I'm a transgender woman. I'm trying to grow some boobs of my own, and I've got this hot, fine piece of, this beautiful woman.
We got no warning. She just strutted in here, and you know what was going through her head? She's like, they're recording this show, and there's no way they're even going to be able to make a comment about it. And now you are the topic of the night.
Now, these people talk about this Julie Perkowski person, and she's kind of attractive. There's Emily Bang here, this beautiful image, could own Julie, whatever her name is, intellectually without even thinking about it. She could just... Emily here could talk in her sleep a better political and intellectual argument than I think half these little cutesy girls out there in politics could. And it's just sad because she's not blonde and she's not bubbly and she doesn't act like she's, the IQ of a rat's turd. So, to bring that all back on point, because that was a horrible tangent. Now, see, that's why the name of this show is The Uncontrollables, because it's not The Uncontrollables. It's that I have some of the worst case of ADHD, which doesn't actually exist. I can't stay on topic to save my life. That's why I have a co-host and guest.
This is, but I don't know if this means that we should record here more often or we just need to stop.
Well, you guys will see in the new banner I'm having, I guess one of my producers of this show work on is going to be absolutely amazing. You guys are going to love this. It's going to be huge, right in your face on my Facebook page, The Uncontrollables on Facebook. And it's going to be there and you guys are going to love it. But to bring it back on topic, Miss Emily Bang here.
To bring it back on topic, let's talk about Emily some more.
Very good with guns. She loves guns and we're in the market right now for a gun. If you guys want to donate a gun or you want to sell me one for really, really good price. So I'm looking for something she can shove down in those cleavages there going, the fun bags.
She has the cleavages plural.
Well, I call cleavage cleavages because there's under boob and there's the
right.
middle.
Now,
that's two.
You know
that's two cleavages.
Well, we can really get off topic here. Which part of the boob is allowed and which is not? All right. If you ever notice that top boob, now that's common. Top boob cleavage, common, and obviously pretty much socially acceptable. But sometimes you cover that up, and then you like maybe you wear a really, really short shirt, and then you have under boob, which is for some reason a little bit more risque. Maybe still acceptable. It's basically a mirror image of the top. But for some reason, since you're on that side, it's like the allowed. What part of the boob can I see?
No, there's a reason for that. It's because the uppity women that have gone and got breast implants because theirs started sagging, that's where the scars are. And so they don't want to be jealous of women that can wear those shirts because they can't because you can see the scars. I think that's what it's from. Because I'm probably going to have that same problem when I get like massive breast implants because that's like
massive?
No, not really. Emily's giving me an ultimatum. She says if I get boobs bigger than her, she has to get breast implants. I'm not allowed to have bigger boobs my girlfriend.
Oh, now wait a second. See, now that's a weird challenge.
Yeah, I know. Because I'm thinking about getting bigger ones than her.
I don't really want to get bigger ones than you, but then you said if I got bigger ones than you, that you would get even bigger ones still. So I kind of want.
Yeah.
Well, this is an endless circle of trouble.
This is the kind of fun you have when you get in politics and you start meeting some of the great people on the LPIN. We're not some of those great people, but we're kind of the friends that you kind of get to see and hear about. Oh, their stories, and it's a blast. Then I can invite you on my show and we can talk about one subject.
LPIN.org.
LPIN.org. The convention's coming up. Vote Dan Drexler for chair.
Honestly, if you have never had an experience with the Libertarian Party
or any party politics
or any party politics, but if the libertarian ideals seem like something you're in tune with, it would be get in touch through the show, find out some information, check out LPIN.org. We'd love to have you at the convention. I think that you'll find out not only will you learn a lot about a party that you're going to agree with way more often than not, but I think you're also going to realize that politics can be fun because we have a lot of fun at the convention.
Oh yeah, definitely. And with the footnote there, do not take my positions as a good one on this show as what a good libertarian is or what a normal libertarian is.
Right.
Josh he's a good libertarian. Now you listen to the other podcast or the other show that's on this network, Indiana Talks, and it's called We Are Libertarians. I sometimes guest on that show because I'm just that awesome. And they're a very good broad look at what a libertarian is from the party and outside of the party. So take a look at that. But now we can really get it back on topic and kind of talking about absurd things, where this kind of all started. Is the Pop-Tart, this kid...
He wasn't even trying to make a gun.
The teacher saw something that resembled a gun.
She saw an L shape.
An L shape. And this kid gets suspended for 2 days. They send letters home saying that I'm not 100% sure. I think they named the kid. The article's not very good. It says a student used food to make an inappropriate gesture. What's an inappropriate gesture?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. And this.
Now I could see that as like, hey, my middle finger's up in the air, right in your face. That's an inappropriate gesture.
Yes, especially at that age. I mean. I don't understand. This kid was trying to make a mountain. He's trying to make a mountain. And really, if you think about a mountain with 3 peaks, and the middle peak is maybe the taller and the other 2 are about the same. That's about what this looks like. And basically, the teacher saw it at a different angle, so it was turned on its side, and it made the L shape with a little area where a trigger might be. And all of a sudden, this Pop-Tart was a weapon or an image of a weapon. And this 7-year-old child got kicked out of school for it.
Yeah.
He didn't hold it up and even use it as a gun.
No.
He didn't say, "Oh, look, I made a gun with my Pop-Tart." He made a friggin' mountain.
The super duper interesting part, they leave at the end of the story on most of these websites, they post at the very end, is it says Josh, the name of this 7-year-old boy.
He must be good looking.
Who suffers from attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and enjoys art classes. So basically what they're saying is this kid's artistic, he has an imagination, and he likes to make things. He likes to produce things from his imagination. And so they label him attention deficit hyperactivity ADHD, right? Yeah, ADHD is how that's labeled
ADHD.
now. And enjoys art classes. It's kind of scary that this kid's he's labeled mentally ill. This is an illness that can technically be fixed with a bunch of pills that damage your brain chemistry.
If somebody is ADHD, that's not just something that you live with. That's something that you have to get a prescription for.
Yeah, you have to get treated. This kid's mentally unstable, and
creativity must be stopped.
Now on his records, gun violence. Or no, not gun violence, but necessarily, just inappropriate
on his permanent school record, which I'm sure that we've all found out as we've grown into adults that is really something that hangs with you the rest of your days. I got the last job interview I went to, someone asked me what was on my permanent school record.
Wow. I honestly know that no one's ever looked at mine because they would have known that I got expelled. I didn't get expelled. I technically was expelled. What it was is I wasn't allowed back into school because I was technically a threat to the student body.
Another story for another day, but I've got to find out one of these days why you were a threat to the student body.
I'm not going to say that now. There's another thing that's kind of the opposite end of this spectrum. You're not allowed to protect yourself. You know that, right? By the government standards, you're not allowed to protect yourself. What you got to do is you got to bow down to those baddies. For women, you either ask men not to rape you, pee your pants or puke on them, or just make yourself unattractive. Go gain 300 pounds, eat McDonald's every day, you'll never get raped. Don't worry about it.
Ooh.
But also don't fight back. So there was a teen who stopped.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. There was a teen who stopped the school bus shooting and got suspended. Now, there was a kid that pulled a gun, and these are, I think, high school age kids, 16 or so, 16, 15 years old that are involved in it. And this kid pulls a gun, sticks it in somebody's face. Another kid tackles him, gets the gun away. So far, we're not seeing anything that says necessarily that that's exactly why he was suspended. For the schools like zero tolerance policy, whatever. Instead of rewarding him, instead of saying good job, they suspended him because he refused to cooperate with the investigation, because he feared for his life, because it's kind of maybe gang related. There's other kids, there's bullies and things.
So he saved lives.
He potentially saved multiple lives, and he gets suspended for not cooperating with the investigation of possibly. And this kid probably not super brave, but he's probably decently smart. Knows, hey, I stopped this kid. I'm already in trouble. If I start snitching to the cops, I'm in bigger trouble with these kids. And so, in his own self-interest, he does not cooperate, which isn't, you don't have to cooperate with the police. You literally, by law, never, ever have to speak an utter syllable to the police, which you never, ever should. That's sound legal advice. Go look it up on Google. Go ask a lawyer if you have to talk to cops. They will tell you no and then give you a bill for $100. Now, so this kid gets suspended for that. What is that teaching all the other children? Don't stand up to bullies. Don't stand up for yourself. Don't fight. Don't try to send someone's life. But who was supposed to then?
Right.
Was a school bus driver who we somehow give super authority to these days? And they're the
police.
They're like the police. Are we going to start putting cops on every bus?
Yeah, we need to put armed badge-wearing people on all these school buses. That's the only way that we can solve anything. If you don't have a badge, then you're incapable.
But wait. Didn't the Supreme Court rule that the cop's job is not, and they have no expectation to protect you? They are not out. They do not have to look out for your safety, right?
No.
I'm not wording that 100% correctly. The exact wording, anyways, it's correct, but not exact wording. That they have no legal binding to protect you, to guarantee your safety.
No.
Cops don't. So why would we put them on buses with kids? Because they don't care. They're just like, I'm bored. That little fat kid over there made a weird joke. I'm going to shoot him.
It's a whole nother argument. You start talking about arming people in schools in general, and you have...
You know why that's such a huge problem? And talking about schools, why you always run into huge brick walls? Because we shouldn't have them in the first place. How come nobody ever says that? That we shouldn't have public schools in the first place. Like last episode, we talked about that transgender girl and everything else.
In the United States Constitution, it clearly says that we have a right to public education.
Right, yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We're about to have a right to college education, too, if it keeps going the way it's going. Because that's so worthwhile. So, yeah, it's an absurdity, but you look at the source of almost all these problems. You really look at it. You look at all the facts more than we could ever possibly fit in one of these shows. Where's the source coming from? It's government. Either from it being existent at all or just being way too big. It's getting out of control, and the whole government nanny state thing is pouring into our schools. It's pouring into every ounce of our society. So kids are growing up in a society where you don't stand up for yourself, you don't have imagination, or you're mentally ill, you don't be a little different, or you're mentally ill. Think of some of the weirdest people you ever knew, or probably some of the smartest people you know. I mean, half the people I've ever worked for in successful businesses didn't even graduate high school. I mean, I know people that I know a guy right now, he owned a very successful trucking company. He never made it out of 8th grade. He walked in the first day, got in a fight, and left, and never went back.
I could be mistaken here, so apologize if I am, but Peter Jennings, I believe, ABC Nightly News anchor for years and years and years, passed away now. But I could swear that he never graduated high school, and he was the face of the media for one of the networks.
Yeah, well, like a news story is, you think of Peter Thiel paying kids not to finish college. I'm sure if he could get away with it, he'd pay kids not to go to high school.
Oh, yeah.
So,
matter of fact, if he get away with it, he could probably do that one for free.
So there's just all this stuff, and we kind of basically stuck on one topic, except for Emily's boobs and hotness, for almost an entire episode. But it's so huge, it's so big, and there's a lot of different things. Oh yes, they are. So is the subject or subjects. Well, I got sidetracked again. Boobs. They're the scourge of the earth is breast cancer. I really do believe that. But
there's an episode one time.
We're gonna. You know what? I want to do an episode on breast cancer and how evil breast cancer awareness is, and how you should never ever give money to anybody that has anything with a pink label to do with it. You guys would be amazed if you knew. So
yeah,
and hopefully you do.
Things that they actually do with your money after you give it to them,
or don't do.
Yeah, it's incredible. I'm not saying that they don't maybe do some good out there somewhere, but boy, when you find out how much of your money goes to some crazy things, that's a whole episode.
Oh, gotta love pad pockets, and that's a lot of all that stuff, and it's the good feels, yo, the good feels. But so we covered a lot of things, but there's so much out there, and it's such a large topic, and I think I'm talking about it now, and I know it's been talked about many times, but hopefully I can bring some different avenues of approach to it, so maybe different things you hadn't thought about, and try to tie it in a little bit all together.
It's also part of why Indiana Talks is here. I think they do a pretty good job here on Indiana Talks of providing some unique, different points of view that you can't find.
Yeah, I think actually this morning I was trying to watch the Civil Discourse Now, a show by Mark Small and Paul Ogden. If I'm not mistaken, I think one of the hosts was saying that increased gun ownership increases the amount of deaths and accidents because of guns.
Well, they love to play around with that statistic.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, that's logic, right? You think of simple logic.
We have more gun deaths here in the United States than they do in the UK.
Well, because we have more guns.
We have more guns. Well,
and more people.
Of course we do, but we also have how much lower rate of violent crime, how many gun incidents are there where it's not a death or it's not something like that, but it's somebody's saved somebody with a gun.
Well, we never report those things.
No, that's good news.
No. We only report when a school shooting happens, and then we report the facts wrong like 8 different times. Or what's funny is they always report all these situations are horrible tragedies, like the different movie theater shootings and everything else. These horrible tragedies that it's a bunch of people locked in a building with no way to defend themselves, that aren't allowed to be able to defend themselves. So it's kind of something that's funny to point out, to go, hey, you guys are a bunch of cattle in a locked cage that aren't allowed to defend yourselves, and you wonder why something happens there. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff, and we're going to kind of sit here and talk about some nonsense.
Yeah, when was the last time that when there was a mass shooting at some place where everybody had weapons? Even the tragedy on the military base, there was none of them.
No, they're not allowed to carry guns.
That's what I was saying. They didn't have guns.
Well, because like when I was in the Air Force, I couldn't carry open or concealed carry a gun on base after I was off duty. I had to be in uniform, and only the cops
the guns
and a very few other people were allowed to carry them. And they recommended that all military personnel store their personal firearms on base, even if you live off base, to store them in the armory.
To have anybody send us a message or on Twitter or an email or something saying, when was the last mass shooting that happened someplace where the majority of people on the receiving end of the mass shooting were armed citizens? I can't.
I can't.
I can't think of one. Every mass shooting
they did bring up that there were shootings and gunfire accidents at gun shows this year. We're not going to go there. Well, I'm not going to bring that up. What I do want to bring up is some other random points. Interesting point, because this is a topic that's important to me and I care, so you're going to have to care too, is that there's a show someone shared with me. I think it's into its second season now. It's called Whitney. It's on NBC. And their latest episode was Lost in Transition, episode 12, season 2. And one of the, I don't know anything about the show really, because I watched one episode. It was god awful. The acting wise and entertainment value wise.
Give a recommendation. I was like, well, this is so.
Well, I highly commend the show because they introduce a transgender character.
That's
it's a
cool.
female to male, and it's one of the main character's sisters. And she comes in and she comes out to her sister, and they kind of talk about it and things like that. They didn't use any of the old stereotypes. First off, it's a primetime show with a female to male transgender character. But it's huge, and how they handled it was just so beautiful because it was still funny. They still made jokes. They still cracked jokes, but it wasn't the same old stupid stereotypes. It wasn't the same old, that little tranny over there was trying to hide and get in bed with me, and I found out when their penis flopped out when I was taking off their panties.
Good for them. Good for them, because you know what? There's been
a comedy show did that in America.
Right. There's been different LGBTQ issues that have been tackled for a long time in sitcoms and on television, all the way back. All in the Family touched on it. Three's Company was although it was more stereotyping, because obviously Jack wasn't gay on that show, but he pretended to be so he could live with the girls. Don't see any transgender anything on television. That's
not taken in a realistic step either. Ever. It's always a joke, or it's cross-dressers or drag queens. And that's what most of the American public sees of the trans community. There's another show called Hit and Miss in the UK, and it's about a transgender male to female hit person. It's a drama. It's a great show. Even if it's not about the trans thing, that just happens to be the main character. It's a really, really good show. And the whole hit person or hitman part is pretty awesome too. I mean, some of the ways this chick kills people is just awesome. But they actually had the actress put on a prosthetic penis. And there was some actually scenes where they showed her showering. And there was a scene where she had a really, really traumatic time, and she was actually beating her penis. And it kind of gets into the gender dysphoria and the self-hatred and everything else. And that's a huge thing. But I know I said
beating a penis.
Yeah, she was self-mutilating, basically. Yeah, you pervert. That's something you don't hear about, you don't see. And I do have a fear that...
That's good, because that's the first step.
It's a very big fit, and it's not pushing it on you.
No.
It's just interjecting it into plot lines here and there that just says, yes, this exists, which I saw a lot different with that, with the whole gay and lesbian community, where they push that crap hardcore. They're like, it's in your face, I like dick. And it's like, quiet down, can't you just treat this normal? So I think they might have learned, and with the advent of the internet and people jumping down people's throat for being assholes, pushing the boundaries.
Woo!
Anarchy!
Uncontrollable.
So that's really neat to see. I do hope that they don't limit it to just transsexuals.
You're
I know
right,
I'm saying transgender and transsexual, but
like normal. That's part of the reason that people have issues with anything, and it's not just sexuality issues, it's not just gender issues. When you start treating it like it's something completely out of the norm, that we have to just discuss this and talk about it and point out when someone's different, it doesn't help them not be different. It doesn't help them be considered normal.
That's a great, interesting point, because that's how the episode treated it. One of the main male characters just started treating her like a guy. She still looked like a girl. She had still long hair and everything. She's a very cute actress. And he just started treating her like a guy. And then, like, when she sat down with some of her sister's girlfriends, they started instantly treating her like a guy. They're like, so you want to be a guy? And she goes, yeah. And they're like, so do you think I'm cute? This little funny stuff. And it was hilarious. They instantly picked up, I'm going to treat you like a guy. And so they passed over. It was still funny as that piss poor show could be. And
I've never even heard of it.
Either. It hasn't been doing well.
Right. This is the first time I've ever even been aware of this show's existence.
Which is sad, because it's
and it's doing something groundbreaking.
But and then back to my point is that I hope they divulge into a little bit more. Is where when they're pushing just female to male or male to female transsexuals in the trans community, is that they're still enforcing a gender binary, that there's only one or the other, when that's not the case. We're going to wrap it up here. Hope you enjoyed this episode. It's awesome. It's going to continue getting more and more awesomer, and that is a word. Don't challenge me on it. And we are going to be the most elite awesome sauce show ever, I believe.
The awesome sauce.
The awesome sauce.
Yeah.
And hope you guys like it. Give us some feedback. Find us on Facebook, The Uncontrollables. On Twitter, we've got Josh at
J.A. Featherstone. Or
I can be reached a lot of places. My personal Facebook page is my name, Maya Axton. My Twitter account is Maya Axton, separated by an underscore. You can go to my website, creatingmaya.com. You can go, let's see here, I'm on Google Plus. I think I'm on Tumblr. I think I'm on Imager. I've got little accounts everywhere.
You're
I've just popped up. I'm on Cloud too. I don't know what Cloud is, but I know I'm there.
Right.
And so I'm everywhere. Come find me. Come send me hate mail. I love it. I've already started getting hate mail off the We Are Libertarians thing. I created a new meme, the Grumpy Anarchist Cat, where I basically put on a lot of makeup, got in front of an anarcho-capitalist flag, and pulled the grumpy cat face. So, come call me a tart or, whatever. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Find us. Go to Indiana Talks. Maybe take a look at that donate button so they can continue improving their network and maybe get you better shows than this one. And
check out some of the other programs. They've got some really good stuff on there on IndianaTalks.com.
Yes, they do. A very wide variety of shows. I think mine's going to stand out a little bit. So yeah, give some of the other guys a chance too. Other than that, we will see you next time. If you have any ideas for the show, or you actually want to come on here and guest star yourself and talk about a particular topic, send me a message and I'll work something out with you. Thanks for listening.